Meet Kroger. As America's largest grocery retailer, we believe everyone deserves fresh, affordable, and delicious food, no matter who you are, how you shop, or what you like to eat. Kroger is a place where 60 million people are deciding which brands to put in their shopping carts. And for more than 2 decades, we've helped deliver value to those shoppers through Kroger's loyalty card program. The concept is simple. The more you shop, the more savings and fuel points you earn. And our customers are all in, allowing us to capture purchase data on 96% of sales. Powered by this view of purchase behavior, Kroger Precision Marketing uses first-party retail data to identify relevant households and measure advertising impact. Our machine learning can predict households that will deliver 3 times more attributable sales than the average shopper. Now we're introducing a transformative solution that will bring this audience intelligence into programmatic media. The Kroger Private Marketplace, a new private programmatic marketplace where advertisers can build and activate ad campaigns, layering first-party data and industry-leading science to reach the right audience within your preferred ad buying platform. Tailor your audience to match campaign objectives using first-party data, exclusively available through Kroger Precision Marketing. With the Kroger Private Marketplace, brands can reach the best households, measure campaign performance with retail metrics, and apply quality controls, all while adhering to the highest standards of consumer privacy and giving you the flexibility to activate across many platforms. Discover the Kroger Private Marketplace and join us on our journey into the future of programmatic media, precision targeting, precision measurements, Kroger Precision Marketing.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jill Smith, and I am the Director of Agency Partnerships for Kroger Precision Marketing. For those of you who may not know, Kroger Precision Marketing is the retail media business of Kroger. And it was created and designed to make brand advertising more effective by closing the loop between media exposure and sales. And so we are very excited to be joining the IAB today. A huge thank you for having us. So earlier this year, the IAB released a report saying that the digital marketing industry is at this inflection point, and the old ways of targeting and measuring success just aren't cutting it anymore. And consumers are in the driver's seat, controlling how and when their data is shared, and brands are demanding more meaningful results from their media investments. And as we know, delivered impressions just aren't enough. Click-through rates aren't enough. And now sales matter, business results matter. And in this new world, retailers now have a very important role to play when it comes to media. And this is why, some of you have already heard, why Kroger Precision Marketing recently announced the release of the new Kroger Private Marketplace. And brands and agencies can now activate against Kroger's first-party audience data in their DSP of choice. And you can unlock brand safe inventory, and it offers the ability to reach relevant households, but most importantly, allows brands to understand the sales impact of their media. So brands now have this new tool to be more disruptive. And so on that note, talking about disruptive, I'm joined by 2 pioneers in the media space, and I would love to introduce them. So today we have Jessica Fair. She is the Director of Integrated Consumer Experience for Smuckers. And we also have John Elliott, who is the Commerce Lead at PSOne, which is a part of Publicis. All right, before we dive in, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your roles, and I think everyone else would too. So if you wouldn't mind, each of you share just a little bit high level about your role within your organization.
Thanks, Jill. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jill, for having us today, and IAB for including us in this fireside chat. Jess Fair, part of the J.M. Smucker company. I've been at Smuckers for the past 7.5 years, and currently have the opportunity to lead our COE in developing capabilities that bridge across media, commerce, and our digital ecosystem. So what does that mean, right? Like, it's a little bit of a space that's new charted territory for all of us in CPG, as we've seen retailers become media publishers, and we've seen digital data and audience changing, and the ability to better understand our audiences in the digital ecosystems. we brought together a COE that's really responsible for helping to ensure that we have the right capabilities, the right infrastructure, the right data and tech stacks that can enable our consumer engagement strategies. So that's the team that I'm part of. It's fairly new. And as we get into some of the content of a conversation today, you'll hear a little bit more about how that's been a bit of a game changer for us at JMS. Prior to this role, I was responsible for our commerce marketing efforts. So I kind of grew up in the area of shopper marketing, e-commerce marketing, working with our retailer partners to deliver against our marketing strategies. And that gave me a front row seat, quite honestly, to a lot of the evolution that is changing the dynamics of programmatic digital media going forward. And so excited to be here today, excited to be here with our partner, John Elliott, who I'll allow him to introduce himself. But John is my partner in crime as we think about this evolution at JMS. PSOne, our agency partners at the Publicis group, is our full funnel agency partner. And that has enabled us to think differently about this space and bring their media acumen to all aspects of the funnel. So excited to be here with John today.
Yeah, and thrilled to be here too. We started out on the commerce portion of the PSOne journey about 6-7 months ago in earnest, and it's been exciting. I mean, I think I have the privilege of leading an amazing team of commerce marketers across media and creative and program execution, as well as data and kind of audience strategy too. And really where we are into supporting kind of JMS's evolution and vision too is how do we, bring media rigor to our commerce investments, but also think about everything really holistically so that we're not just doing commerce media really well, but we're thinking about kind of the holistic media plan and really coming full funnel. So that's been a really exciting kind of part of the evolution and what we've been working with Jess and team on. So thrilled to be here.
I love it. I can already tell you guys are quite the dynamic duo. It's great to see. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And Jess, let's go to you for the first question. So as I mentioned, the digital marketing ecosystem is at this inflection point, in part due to third-party cookie deprecation. What do you think the programmatic industry needs to do to overcome some of these obstacles?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jill, and one that we've been talking a lot about at JMS. I'll certainly answer the question coming from the brand perspective and from the advertiser's perspective. I think it's really important that we not be the obstacle, right? I think historically, many of our organizations have been set up by discipline. We've had media teams, we've had shopper teams and commerce teams, we've had digital marketing teams. So when you talk about the digital marketing ecosystem, it really has an impact across all of those spaces. And so where we've been, finding success as of late is we started to break down those barriers, right? What was once, we were building first party data to drive our CRM strategies and our SEO strategies. And we had media excellence that was really focused on delivering reach and those impressions that you mentioned and optimizing performance. We had a shopper team that was all about that last mile of the journey. We've brought all those spaces together. And that's what I mean when I say we don't want to be the obstacle in our ability to forge forward in this future, with cookie deprecation. And so what we're doing and what we're thinking about that differently now is our first party data is now informing a lot more. It's informing multi-channel. We're thinking about how it can inform, well beyond just, like I said, CRM and SEO, but thinking about it including programmatic as well. And then our partnerships with retailer media networks and their ability to drive well beyond just our conversion driving efforts and thinking about things like our awareness and upper funnel initiatives. So by integrating these teams all together to breaking down kind of the silos of each one of the disciplines, it's helped us to think beyond the digital marketing ecosystems. And suddenly we have these insights and we have these data that we can transfer, beyond all of these disciplines. And as an advertiser, that gives us a lot more ability to partner and bring our strategies to life with partners like KPM. So we're really excited about this space. We actually see this as an opportunity if we do it right. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of insights sitting there, and we got to break down the organizational barriers that are maybe holding us back in individual silos.
I love that. Yeah, we do hear a lot about silos, and you're right. The beauty happens and the magic happens when everyone can work together and bring their unique perspective. But you got to break down those silos, and kudos to you guys for being a leader in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think to that point too, I mean, you kind of lit off from the beginning is like everyone's looking for sales impact, but I think you also have such a diverse group of stakeholders now, from brand media teams to commerce and shopper media teams. And I think they're coming to the table with, different goals and objectives out of retail media platforms too. So I think as these programmatic solutions certainly grow and evolve, it's being able to have solutions that work for a variety of marketing objectives and needs too. And I think, what I think will also just help so much is that kind of focus from the programmatic media on viewability, brand safety, those kind of metrics too, to kind of support that transparency and control as well.
Yep, I love it. It's like bringing everyone's goals together. So we have one holistic goal to work toward. So Jess, just to build a little bit on the first question, because Smuckers, you've really been at the forefront of using this retail data. What is unique about, and why are marketers interested in partnering with retailers?
Yeah, it's pretty simple for me. It's the purchase data and the shopper, insight that you all sit on, right? Like, your shoppers the best out of anyone. And we want to make sure that when we're partnering with you, we're doing it in a way that not only drives, brand growth for our business objectives, but also category growth and expanding consumption at, within the Kroger categories. And so that purchase data level that you guys sit on really is the unlock for us. So, other data sets that exist out there, whether it be behavioral, demographic, geographic, that's all wonderful data that helps us get to the right person at the right time with the right message. But when you layer on that purchase intent, it's what it unlocks for us is the ability to go from, we want to target an audience that models coffee category shoppers to we actually are going to target category shoppers that shop Kroger, yes, that buy flavors and switch around flavors and are probably shopping the category every 2 months. And my ability to go in and say, hey, we have this awesome new flavor that we're launching, and we're one of our coffee brands, and get to that right household with the right message. Gosh, that's relevant reach all of a sudden, right? And so that purchase level data is really, to me, what the game changer is in our ability to deliver relevant reach. Not to mention the back end reporting, right? You talked a little bit about it, Jill, about kind of that retailer level data, the refined detail that it allows us to do to truly look at performance and not just look at, did we drive purchase intent? Did we actually drive purchase, right? Did I actually sell that bag of coffee? And so it really is the layer to me that is changing the game and the unlock for us as advertisers and trying to build our brands.
I think the other aspect, too, is to kind of Justin's point, it's the actionability of it too. I think, we got years ago, we would spend time building these precision profiles, thinking about most valuable households, and we have a really good definition on paper using sales data and our subscription services, but then we ultimately have to share that with KPM and say, hey, help us build this type of audience, help us find how to reach this type of person. So you end up rebuilding it anyways. Now with these solutions, we're leveraging your data to figure out those right shoppers, right reach, all of those in a way that we can then do the action off it too. I think the other area where it starts to get interesting too is, there's a lot of focus on using this data for actionability in media. Ton of sense. The other, though, is how do you use this data to have shopping insights that inform creative messaging and kind of even big brand platforms? So if we understand where, use this data to better understand our purchase barriers, our shopper opportunities, who our most valuable households and audiences are. How do we now make sure that's reflected in kind of the creative that we're building that's really meant to be full funnel creative too?
Yeah, it's so funny. This purchase data that you both talk about, and John, you talked about creating this persona on white paper, but sometimes the purchase data can be these myth busters. It's like, wait, who is actually buying my product, and how could that inform the creative ultimately?
And when it's tied back to kind of the closed loop reporting, is like, we're not just looking at how big is this specific segment of shoppers, but we can also now begin to look at historical conversion opportunities too, to say not just what's my biggest audience, but who's my most likely audience to now convert against, whether it be a sales objective, a consideration too. And I think that's the other advantage of having audience, conversion, sales data all within one system and data set.
I love that. Yeah. Okay, so John, we're going to pass this next one to you. You've obviously been a key partner to Kroger, and thank you in participating in our alphas and our betas as we launch our new private marketplace. But I also know you've been working with other retailers too in the space. So wanted to hear from you, what excites you the most about bringing the retail data and the programmatic ecosystem together?
In those terms, it's that, that better data gives us the ability to have better targeting and better measurements. So, for one piece, we're able to now build very specific audiences based on specific marketing objectives. So, for example, and just kind of alluded to this, are we trying to drive purchase frequency, or are we trying to reach, point of market entry shoppers and really focus on new buyer growth? Well, with the retailer data, we can really understand and develop addressable audiences kind of against those objectives. And then on the measurement side of things, I think it's just really exciting to see the granularity of data that's possible, beyond just, beyond just ROAS and impressions and clicks, but, from an omni-channel perspective, is our media driving more online grocery purchases, or are we impacting in-store sales more? And kind of how does that vary by audience? And things like new to brand and new to category, I think those are incredibly just such valuable data points to kind of come in. And what's exciting about that too is then it makes testing and learning really exciting, especially in these programmatic, environments. So the ability to test, apply those learnings, retest, repeat, you can kind of rinse and repeat mid-campaign, where I think historically in the past, we kind of had to wait until the campaign wrapped, and you wait for that kind of lovely post-campaign analysis with a bow on it to kind of understand, well, how was my program effective? And now we're doing that more in real time, and we're having conversations about hypotheses of audience performance, those kind of things. So, we were thrilled to be a part of the Kroger alpha and beta for the PMP. And I think, one thing we really tried to do in the beta round was test how granular we could get with our audience strategy. So we leveraged a mixture of the Kroger first party data, some of the data sources from our DMP, to then really understand what are those unique kind of granular opportunities. So, an example of that was we did an analysis, and we saw that around half of our brand buyers were routinely switching between us and 5 very specific competitive brands. So we were able to build a custom audience based on kind of that competitive dynamic, and then test its performance against some more broader, perhaps scalable audiences like general category shoppers or lapsed, and have been thrilled with the results. So I think for me, I start to get really excited with the Moneyball-esque type approach that we're able to take with these data sets, and the ability to kind of activate, test, and kind of build our learning agenda that way.
Yeah, I'll just build in a similar vein. This idea of us being able to have these audiences built at different altitudes of scale, right? And so maybe in past we had more linear or singular targeting strategies, and that's not new, right? To be able to say, this is the message I want to deliver, but it was maybe, these are our top 3, and here's the creative message that we would employ against those. Now in this PMP, the ability to have, more granular audience segments built for specific action and then creative messaging served up that's in, quote unquote, more personalized to that specific shopper is really incredible. And so one shopper that might be in a very, different part of the journey is going to maybe see something completely different than another. And so to do that in a way that is automated, to do that in a way that is personalized, to do that in a way that you can scale it is really incredible, right? We're no longer limited to each individual buy's kind of parameters.
Yeah. I think you guys, as you guys are testing and learning, that's the beauty of it, right? It's like test what audiences are working, and there's going to be some audiences that maybe aren't converting, but that's okay. It's the beauty of learning and testing. And I think you just learn so many different ways to slice the different audiences. Like, as I think about incrementality, you can even just remove any existing buyer from your buy and only reach potential new buyers. So it is really cool how you can kind of test and learn.
Well, and I think what we're also kind of testing and learning now, because it is a bit new, but to that point too, it's what's the right KPI and measurement against this myriad of goals that you can kind of go towards. So I think, that's where we're looking now is it a universal ROAS benchmark against kind of each of these audiences? Do we need to have more nuanced kind of goals in that sense, based on, if we're talking about new brand buyers and trying to recruit new people into our brand franchises, is ROAS the right KPI against that? Or do we need to focus on new to brand? And how do we now think about optimizing in flight towards those kind of varying kind of degrees of success metrics too? So I think that's also been super exciting to kind of start to think about, because that's what certainly precision teams have done, the retail search side of the business for years. And now to be able to bring that same kind of mentality and test and learn thinking to the display side is really exciting.
Yeah. And to build a little bit on that, John, would love your perspective. Like, as we think about traditional programmatic, it is efficiency, it is CPM. So how low can you get that CPM? Would love, as this retail media coming together, your perspective on addressing like being efficient, but balancing that with being effective.
I think that's a great point. I think how you measure effective is going to be the key thing. And I think one of my wishes is, to start thinking beyond, to find a better mixture and balance of short-term and long-term kind of viewing of success and effectiveness, so that, we have a tendency to focus on return on ad sales. And that is very much in the short term, here and now. Did my media drive a sale right now? But man, would it be really great to start thinking about, well, what types of audience personas have the highest lifetime value, and how do we optimize towards attracting and converting those shoppers? And I think that starts to get you more in that growth hacking mentality of cost of acquisition, more so than just a straight return on ad spend. So I think effectiveness in that case, I think that's one, is like, how do we bring in longer term horizons into our immediate media decisions? And I think the other piece is just, and Jess and I talk about this so much, is just, just because it exists within a retailer ecosystem and a retailer media ecosystem does not always mean that ROAS or sales is your measure of effectiveness. So if you're trying to drive brand consideration and brand awareness, it's a wonderful thing to leverage this retailer data to do, but you shouldn't hold that to a ROAS standard in the same way you might your search banner ad. And I think if you can kind of make sure you're matching the right measure of effectiveness to the right media vehicle, it also gives you a clearer way to evaluate kind of performance across the entirety of the funnel.
Another myth buster. It doesn't always have to be ROAS. I fully agree. As we think about the future, what the future looks like, John, of retail and programmatic coming together, what does that look like?
I mean, I think it's kind of a lot of what we're just kind of chatting through. I mean, I think I really love the idea of being able to kind of bring in that longer term view, so that we can, leverage that data, customer signals, to help find the shoppers that are going to give us the longest, the greatest lifetime value versus kind of the ones that might just be more kind of switching from here to there. So I think that's something we would love to kind of work with our retail partners on. And then Jess said it earlier, I am now really excited about the creative opportunities too. I think we used to take, we historically are shopper marketers, and we took a one size kind of fits all, like, well, here was my campaign creative, and I'm just going to version that based on the relative specs of where my media is going to be appearing. And you kind of had a lowest common denominator approach to what your creative messaging was, what your visual identity was. I think now, especially with the programmatic solutions, not only are we talking about nuanced messages to address specific shopper barriers for specific audiences, but the ability to A/B test and bring more of that thinking in as well. I think to me, that's really, really exciting, and something that we haven't been able to do as much than the retailer ecosystem from a kind of, more display oriented creative.
Yeah, the only build I would, and it kind of brings those two spaces together, is just that ability for us to now partner and really get to the really of what we want our marketing investments to do, right? And so driving efficiency is still going to be part of our media goals, right? But at the same time, making sure that we're partnering with our retailer media networks, partnering with KPM to understand our business objectives and how we make the choices within our different targeting strategies, when we want to go really deep into personalization and have very robust creative testing, and when we don't, and we want to drive scale and we want to get broad reach awareness out there to a larger set. It's those choices that we can make together now in the space. And so when we talk about the future, I really do think it's a different collaborative conversation that we're now having with KPM that might have been different than that we were having with Kroger previously, about the business choices that we're making and how we employ our media investments to deliver against those. And it doesn't have to be the same every time. And actually, it's going to vary quite drastically campaign to campaign on what we're trying to achieve, how we measure it, what those success metrics are, and how that proves out for the next dollar, right? Every dollar informing the next dollar. It's an ecosystem that allows us to do that.
Yeah, it's part of the benefit of getting the measurement and seeing what works, and we're breaking ground together. So,
and it can be a little overwhelming if I'm really candid and honest with everyone. There's so many times where I have conversations internally. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so many choices for us to make, right? There's so much to pick from, and that's the opportunity, but it can also be like, how do we start to quantify and find those things that are going to make the most material impact to our business? And that data that you sit on allows us to do that now.
Yeah, I love that. So just to kind of end out the questions, Jess, and I'll kind of start with you, because it is overwhelming and there's a lot of choices. And so if you were to offer advice to any other brands out there as they think about how to use this retail first-party data, what would be your advice as people think about it programmatically?
Find your friends. I would not be able to sit here and be on a fireside chat with you, Jill, talking about programmatic media if I wasn't supported and partnering really closely with media masters and people that, really truly understand these spaces. And so, I think back to calls that we have had, last year before, and it was probably just our shopper team on the call with KPM. And this year, we have our full agency media suite, our internal media excellence team, all having these conversations together. And so my feedback is definitely talking to other brand marketers when we think about how to bring this space together, how to really bring the best of all of these worlds together, which this platform allows us to do, is make sure that everybody's coming with, different perspective and different experience and educating each other on the opportunities. And so I don't go to a KPM meeting anymore without my media partners. and many times as they're building their media strategy, their commerce person is right next to them. And so that breakdown of kind of these different silo groups is really what my advice would be, and we're just getting started, right? That's, we're just at the beginning of that. But every time we do it, we're seeing more and more value come out of our strategy. We're seeing our marketing investments go further, and we're able to address, kind of our consumer journey opportunities in a much more effective way by doing so.
I love it. It takes a village.
It takes a village, and make good friends with your media team.
Yeah. John, anything you'd like to add in terms of advice?
I mean, I love that. And I think likewise, find clients that want to think the same way and value that partnership perspective too. I think from the agency perspective, the commerce media, commerce marketing team of the future may look slightly different than the team structures that we have today. And I think, especially as we see this acceleration of offerings towards more self-service from managed service, I think if I'm commerce team should be looking and saying, do we have the right precision talent? I mean, I think this is, to Jess's point, it can feel a little overwhelming at times. Well, surround yourself with really smart programmatic experts. And it's not necessarily a skills that has been as ingrained in commerce media teams to date, but I think that is the direction of the future. So I think, again, we've certainly seen that from the biddable side on our search practices, but now building out our repertoire and our talent, our bench, our expertise. And we've got some amazing folks that have helped us run these really successful alphas and betas with you guys. And we could not have done that without the right precision experts. So I think that's super important. But I think likewise, where the emphasis should never go away is that holistic strategy. So if you have, and we see that with search, we see that with everything else. If you have the best hands-on precision teams in the world managing parts of the retailer ecosystem in silos, it doesn't work, because you still need the right strategic thinking to connect all these parts together to make sure that they're all, working in service of the brand, in service of the marketing objectives, and delivering on kind of the core growth objectives. So I just think this is kind of the inflection point too, in how what commerce media teams look like moving forward. And we're going to start looking a whole lot more like precision teams, I think at a greater scale.
One additional thought that you sparked in my head a little bit, John, as you were talking was, I think we both talked about kind of the organizational step change, whether that be in talent, partnership, whatever that looks like to you. But there's also a factor, and it's a little bit idealistic, but there's also the breakdown in the resources of money, right? And so, we have historically had money that sits on awareness, money that sits in consideration, and money that sits in conversion. And we just stopped doing that, right? Because when you're in a world today where OLV can be shoppable and paid search on a retailer platform can have a video running next to it, it's not singular, right? The funnel is not linear and it's not singular. You can be driving awareness and conversion with the same ad. And so we stopped putting our money in these different buckets, which inevitably was going to drive a silo, whether you wanted it to or not. And we started thinking about that holistically. And so, like I said, it's idealistic, but it's really forced us to think about every dollar differently, and partnering in these spaces, and partnering in programmatic media, partnering with retailer media, partnering in video in different ways to deliver against our objectives. And guess what? $1 can do more than do more than one thing. So it's paying dividends in how far we can stretch our investments as well.
I love it. Well, thank you both. I'm hearing so many just similarities, I think, in summary across the board. It's take a leap, it's test and learn, try, find out what works. It's remove these silos and really try to come together and collaborate across all these different stakeholders. And even from a budget perspective, Jess, I think that's a great point. And then also, how can we share a common goal and have all parties really work toward that common goal? So John and Jess, I can't thank you enough. We're right at time, and thank you for the time today. And I also want to give a very special thank you to the IAB for hosting this event. So appreciate it, everyone.